Since 2016, Tom Holland has been the face of one of the most iconic superheroes in the world, swinging into the MCU during what fans called its golden era. He first appeared as Spider-Man all the way back in 2016 and was able to have his own solo movie just a year after, and two alone that followed after that just in the MCU. These movies pulled in over $3.9 billion globally, with No Way Home earning $1.9 billion, making it one of the highest grossing films of all time. After these films he did for Marvel, people thought Tom Holland would be one of this generation's next big movie stars. But since landing the role in 2016, he hasn't been able to find the same success in other projects like he has in the MCU, while other young actors have been able to branch out to different types of roles and find major success. And does his struggle with fame and addiction play a part in it? On screen, Holland's Peter Parker is the perfect mix of awkward, funny, and a relatable high school kid who just happens to fight bad guys and aliens. Off screen, Holland's public persona matches that charm. He's the guy who accidentally spoils Marvel plot twists in interviews, dances on talk shows, and has a confidence for someone who became a household name before turning 20. For years, it seemed inevitable that he'd follow in the footsteps of actors like Leonardo DiCaprio or Brad Pitt, transitioning from teen heartthrob to respected leading man. But here's the twist. 7 years after first donning the Spider-Man suit, Holland's career outside the MCU hasn't soared as many expected. While peers like Timothée Chalamet and Jacob Elordi star in Oscar-nominated dramas and buzzy indie films, Holland's non-Spider-Man projects like Cherry or The Chaos Walking have struggled to connect. Add to that his battles with alcohol addiction, the suffocating pressure of fame, and a recent mental health crisis sparked by his grueling TV series, The Crowded Room. And it's clear Holland's journey has been anything but smooth. So how did the golden boy of Marvel find himself here? To understand, we need to rewind to where it all began, long before he ever climbed a wall in spandex. Tom Holland wasn't always destined to be an actor. His first love was dance. Growing up in London, he trained in hip-hop and ballet, skills that later led him to gymnastics. By age 12, he could perform backflips and parkour moves with ease, talents that would one day make him a standout Spider-Man. But back then, his focus was on the stage. In 2008, Holland landed a role in Billy Elliot the Musical in London's West End. 2 years of playing Billy, a working-class boy pursuing ballet, taught him discipline and emotional storytelling. It was exhausting, but it shaped who I am, he later said. When the curtains closed on Billy Elliot, Holland shifted to acting, determined to prove he was more than a dancer. His big break came in 2012 with The Impossible, a harrowing drama based on a real family's survival during the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami. Holland, then 16, played the eldest son opposite Naomi Watts and Ewan McGregor. The role required him to convey terror, grief, and resilience, often while soaked in muddy water. Critics took notice. The Hollywood Reporter praised his heartbreaking maturity, and suddenly Hollywood saw him as a serious actor. Over the next few years, Holland balanced smaller projects with blockbusters. He played Chris Hemsworth's son in the whaling drama In the Heart of the Sea, 2015, and starred with Saoirse Ronan in the dystopian romance How I Live Now, 2013. But his life changed forever in 2015 when Marvel began searching for a new Spider-Man. Marvel and Sony had a problem. After 2 Spider-Man franchises starring Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, audiences were tired of seeing the same story start over again. It felt like a rehash, and people wanted something fresh and exciting. The solution they came up with was pretty smart. They decided to make Peter Parker younger, funnier, and most importantly, a big part of the MCU. This meant Spider-Man could finally team up with heroes like Iron Man and Captain America, which fans had dreamed about for a long time. Finding the perfect actor for this new Peter Parker wasn't easy at all. The search was incredibly intense. Over 1,500 young actors tried out for the part. Some well-known young actors auditioned too, like Asa Butterfield, who was in the movie Hugo, and Nat Wolff from The Fault in Our Stars. The competition was large, and the pressure was on to stand out from the rest. For a while, it looked like Tom Holland might not get the part at all. He had sent in a video audition tape he made himself, like many others. But the people making the movie initially thought they wanted someone who seemed a little older for the role. It seemed like his chance might be gone. But then, almost at the very last minute, a phone call changed everything for Tom. They asked him to come in for a special screen test, which is like a final audition where you act out scenes. Tom remembered how nervous he was during that test. He said, "They asked me to do a screen test with Robert Downey Jr., and he felt the pressure, but he decided to just be himself and show what he could do." He recalled, "I did a backflip, cracked a joke, and tried not to pass out. Doing a backflip right there showed he had the moves, and making a joke showed he had the humor Peter Parker needed." His chemistry with Robert Downey Jr. during that test was amazing. Like sparks flying between them. They just clicked. Director Jon Favreau, who was involved in the casting, later talked about why Tom got the part. He said, "Tom nailed the humor and the heart. Plus, he could do a standing backflip in costume. That sealed it." So, being able to do flips and stunts himself was a big advantage and something he worked hard at. Stepping into the role wasn't just about doing flips, it meant intense physical training. Becoming Spider-Man requires a lot of strength and agility. Tom had to spend many hours working out, practicing stunts, and getting into superhero shape. This is a different kind of struggle, pushing your body to its limits every day to be ready for the demands of the role. The world first got to see Tom Holland as Spider-Man in the movie Captain America: Civil War in 2016. Even though he only had about 30 minutes of screen time in that huge movie, his performance was unforgettable. He played Peter Parker as a quippy, funny kid who was totally starstruck meeting real-life superheroes. He stole the show and instantly became a fan favorite. After that exciting introduction, his first solo movie, Spider-Man: Homecoming, came out in 2017. This movie really cemented his status as the new Spider-Man people loved. It brilliantly blended high school comedy, showing Peter dealing with homework and crushes, with thrilling superhero action as he fought bad guys. Critics loved it, with many calling it the best Spider-Man yet. And the movie made a ton of money, earning $880 million around the world. This proved that Tom Holland was not only a great actor, but someone who could bring in a huge audience, making him very valuable to the MCU. But being the face of a major movie like that brings its own kind of pressure and expectation. Along with the fame came the pressure of constantly being in the spotlight. Suddenly, everyone knew who he was. Paparazzi followed him, fans wanted pictures and autographs everywhere, and his life became very public. This can be a big struggle, trying to live a normal life while being one of the most famous young actors in the world. He also had to deal with the challenge of keeping movie secrets. The MCU movies are famous for surprising audiences, and actors are sworn to secrecy about plots and characters. Tom became known as Spoiler Man among fans because he sometimes accidentally let little bits of information slip out. This shows the constant pressure of being careful about everything he said, even in casual interviews. By the time Avengers Endgame came out in 2019, which became the highest grossing film ever, earning over $2.7 billion, Holland was a global icon. He was recognized everywhere and his face was on billboards and magazines around the world. He achieved things like earning a Guinness World Record for being the youngest actor to play a main character in the MCU. His personal life also became very public once he started dating his co-star Zendaya, and their relationship became a big topic of news and fan interest. While this brought happiness, it also meant even less privacy, with constant media attention on their every move. He also became the face of major brands like Prada, showing just how popular and marketable he had become. From being one of 1,500 hopeful actors auditioning, he was now a massive international star. While life might have seemed perfect from the outside with all the success, fame, and money behind the scenes, there were still the pressures and challenges that came with such a huge level of stardom. The journey was far from over, and being Tom Curious, the kid from London who became Spider-Man, meant navigating a whole new world of expectations expectations and demands. When you become so well known for just one character, it can be tricky for people, both the audience watching movies and the people who make movies, to see you as anyone else. It's like being really good at only one thing, even if you have lots of other talents hidden away. For Tom, being the friendly, funny, and sometimes a little nervous Spider-Man was a perfect fit. But after playing that role many times, Hollywood and movie fans found it hard to picture him doing something totally different. He finished making a bunch of Spider-Man movies, and he wanted to try new things. He was curious about showing different sides of himself as an actor. But then came a challenge. Some of the movies he made after being Spider-Man didn't work out quite as well as everyone hoped. It felt like the magic he had as the web-slinger wasn't always there in these other roles. Let's look at one movie called Chaos Walking. This was a science fiction story set on another planet, and it cost a lot of money to make, like $100 million. It also had another famous young actor, Daisy Ridley, who was in Star Wars. Even with two big stars and a huge budget, the movie didn't do well. It only made about $27 million, which is a big loss. People who watched it and wrote about movies didn't like it much. They said it was confusing or it didn't make sense. One reviewer even said that Tom tried his best, but he couldn't save the movie from its problems. That must be a tough thing to hear when you're trying to prove you can do different kinds of roles. Moving on to another project, Tom tried something very serious called Cherry. This movie was directed by the same brothers who made some of the big Marvel movies, so you'd think it would be a good match. Tom played a character who had a really difficult life, very different from a superhero. He played an army medic who struggles with really hard things. This was a chance for Tom to show that he could do deep, dramatic acting, and many people agreed that his acting was good. Some critics said that this movie proved Tom was more than just a superhero actor. But even though Tom's acting was praised, the movie itself got mixed reviews. People felt the story jumped around too much or was hard to follow. The movie didn't have a big splashy release in movie theaters. It mostly just showed up on a streaming service quietly. So while it showed Tom's range, it didn't become a huge hit or change how everyone saw him right away. It was another step on his path, but still a struggle to find a project that was both a critical and popular success outside of being Spider-Man. Then there was Uncharted. This was an action-adventure movie based on a really popular video game. It seemed like a perfect fit for Tom, action-adventure, a character who's kind of a charming underdog, like Spider-Man in some ways. The movie did make a good amount of money, earning over $400 million worldwide, which is definitely not a flop. But even with that success, many critics weren't super impressed. They said it felt like they had seen this kind of movie before, or that it copied better action films. It was seen as just an okay movie, not something truly special or original that would make people say, wow, look what Tom Holland can do now. When you've been the star of a billion-dollar movie series, everything you do next is watched very closely. And for Tom, that meant constantly battling the image of Spider-Man. Think about someone else his age, like Timothée Chalamet. He became famous around the same time. But instead of superhero movies, Timothée chose roles in smaller, more independent films that allowed him to play very different characters. A struggling teenager, a king from long ago, or even a character in a quirky, unique story. He worked with directors known for making interesting, artistic films, not necessarily giant blockbusters. This helped people see him as a versatile actor, someone who could transform into many different types of people. It's even said that another famous actor, Leonardo DiCaprio, gave advice to young actors: no hard drugs, no superhero movies. While that's a funny saying, it shows that some people in Hollywood think that starring in superhero movies early on might make it harder to get serious, dramatic roles later. The big problem for Tom wasn't that he wasn't a good actor. Everyone who worked with him and saw his performances knew he had talent. The struggle was that playing Spider-Man for so long made it really hard for Hollywood and audiences to imagine him as anyone else. It's called being typecast. Like, directors would see him and think, he's Spider-Man, not he could be this tough soldier or he could be this completely different character. It's like being labeled, and that label sticks. Even movie directors have said that when an actor is so strongly connected to one role, it takes time for people to forget and accept them as someone else. So how does an actor try to fix this? How do you show the world you are more than just one character? It's not easy and it takes time and smart choices. Tom isn't giving up on showing everyone what else he can do. He knows that other actors have faced this same challenge and overcome it. Think about Robert Pattinson, for example. For a long time, everyone only knew him as the sparkly vampire from the Twilight movies. It was hard for people to take him seriously as a different kind of actor. But after Twilight, he made a choice to star in smaller, independent movies that were very different and sometimes a little strange. He played characters that were complicated, tough, or not very likable. These movies weren't huge hits, but they showed a completely different side of his acting. Slowly, people started to see him differently. And because he showed his range in those smaller roles, he eventually got cast as Batman, another huge superhero role, but a totally different kind of character than the vampire, proving he could do both big movies and serious acting. Tom Holland is on his own journey now, like Robert Pattinson was. He knows he needs to find the right projects, the ones that will let him surprise people and show them he's capable of more than just web slinging. He's still curious to explore different characters and stories. It's a process that takes patience and determination. The path after playing a character as huge as Spider-Man is full of challenges, but Tom is still walking it, hoping to show everyone the full course of being Tom Curious and all the different things he can do. In late 2021, Holland faced a personal crisis. What started as casual drinking in his early 20s had spiraled. First, Tom found himself drinking more than he ever expected. That turned into closing time every night for weeks on end. Next, he realized he cared more about alcohol than he did about hanging out with his friend. And that thought startled him. Then came that wild December evening when he knew something had to change. However, the real test arrived with dry January in 2022, when he pledged to go a whole month without touching a drop. By the fourth day, though, he was consumed by cravings and felt powerless without alcohol in his hand. Despite this panic, Tom was determined to prove he wasn't controlled by booze. He reached out to his doctor after noticing his body was paying the price. His liver worries sent him to book an urgent checkup. Then he extended his sobriety through February and bit by bit through to June, which was his birthday. During those 6 months, each party invitation turned into an anxiety bomb. He would sit on the sidelines, heart racing, afraid of what might happen if he slipped up. And yet, he pressed on, learning to cope with social situations without depending on a drink. Soon, Tom began noticing the benefits of his new lifestyle. He slept more soundly than he had in years, waking up without headaches or regret. Stress that once felt overwhelming started to feel manageable. He could face challenges calmly and confidently. His friends told him he seemed more present, more joyful, and more himself. And then it hit him. Why was he so obsessed with something that made him feel so bad? Fellow Marvel star Robert Downey Jr. checked in on him, reminding Tom that asking for help was a sign of strength, not weakness. His manager and family stood by him during moments of doubt, offering encouragement whenever the cravings came back. And gradually, those cravings grew quieter until they almost vanished. Finally, by June, Tom felt something he hadn't in a long time: clear focus. His mind no longer clouded by the next drink. He could concentrate fully on his work and the people around him. Today, he's been sober for more than 2 years, carrying forward the lessons he learned during that tough first half of 2022. To mark this milestone, he even launched Better Cup, a line of non-alcoholic cocktails, so others could enjoy great flavors without the risks of alcohol. Fame hit Tom Holland like a lightning bolt when he was just a teenager. An experience he's openly shared was anything but easy. Going from a regular London kid to a global superstar overnight brought a wave of attention that felt overwhelming. He was only 19 when he was cast as Spider-Man, and suddenly his face was everywhere, not just on movie screens, but on toys, posters, and school lunchboxes around the world. This sudden loss of anonymity was a massive shock to his system, a struggle many wouldn't understand unless they lived it. He's described how much he missed the simple things he used to take for granted. This constant public eye meant that every move he made, every place he went, was under a microscope. Trying to do normal things became impossible. Imagine just wanting to take your dog for a walk, something most people do without a second thought, and suddenly being surrounded by a crowd of people with cameras flashing in your face. This intense scrutiny wasn't just annoying, it was invasive, making him feel like he had lost his privacy completely. It highlighted how difficult it was to maintain any sense of a normal life when the world felt entitled to know everything about you. The spotlight on his personal life only grew brighter, especially as his relationship with fellow star Zendaya developed. For years, rumors swirled, and the public fascination was intense. While they tried to keep their relationship private, a simple moment caught by paparazzi cameras confirmed what many suspected. This wasn't how they wanted to share their personal news. Tom has spoken about how upsetting it was to have such a private part of his life exposed without his consent, emphasizing his belief that love and relationships should be kept personal, away from the relentless glare of the public eye. This felt like another boundary crossed, another piece of normalcy taken away by fame. Beyond the general pressure of being famous, taking on challenging acting roles also brought its own set of struggles. His work on the Apple TV Plus series The Crowded Room was particularly demanding. In the show, Tom played a character dealing with complex mental health issues rooted in trauma. This role required him to delve into difficult emotional territory day after day during filming. He's admitted that portraying such deep pain and struggle took a significant toll on his own mental well-being, describing the experience as emotionally breaking him down. Showed how the demands of his job could impact him on a very personal level. Adding to these pressures was the constant noise of social media. After spending his days exploring heavy themes for his role, Tom found himself turning to platforms like Instagram and Twitter, perhaps looking for positive feedback or connection. However, instead of finding support, he was often met with negativity and harsh criticism. Reading comments from strangers making cruel judgments or speculating negatively about his career amplified his stress and anxiety. He described how easily he could get caught in a loop or spiral, reading hurtful things that felt like personal attacks, especially when he was already feeling vulnerable from his demanding work. The combination of these intense pressures, the loss of privacy, the emotional strain of his work, and the negativity online led him to a crucial decision for his mental health. He decided to step away from social media entirely and take a much-needed break from acting. This wasn't a sign of failure, but a necessary step to protect his well-being and recover. However, the media often misrepresented this period, labeling it dramatically, like calling it a nervous breakdown. Tom pushed back against this narrative, explaining that taking time off to rest and recharge is a normal, healthy human need, not something scandalous or a sign that his career was over. He emphasized that everyone, even someone famous, needs space and time to look after themselves without judgment. Recently, Holland signed on for 3 more Spider-Man films and other MCU projects. While safe, it contradicts his 2021 statement. If I'm playing Spider-Man after 30, I've done something wrong. He since backtracked, saying, I'll keep playing him as long as they'll have me. But there's hope. Rumors link him to Christopher Nolan's next film, exactly the prestige project he needs. Meanwhile, he's focusing on carpentry, golf, and his mom's charity, the Brothers Trust. At 28, Holland's story is far from over. He's weathered addiction, fame's pitfalls, and career doubts, yet remains determined. I want a legacy beyond Spider-Man, he says. With his talent and resilience, don't bet against him.